The dense twilight air of the alien planet pressed heavily around Evan as he maneuvered through the undergrowth, his steps crunching over the unfamiliar foliage. He brushed aside twisted vines and ducked beneath massive ferns, traveling deeper into the secluded grove. Far from the safety of his camp, drawn by the allure of the ancient ruin visible from the nearby cliffs, his curiosity about the unknown had led him to countless worlds. But this place felt different, uneasy, charged with an undeniable energy that sent a tingle down his spine. The locals he had spoken to in a nearby settlement had warned him of strange powers emanating from this site, whispering tales of a mysterious, veiled one that had kept all but the bravest explorers at bay for generations. As Evan navigated the tangled undergrowth, the ruins finally came into view, a crumbling testament to a long-forgotten civilization. Broken pillars and remnants of what once might have been a grand structure lay scattered around, each stone etched with symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly glow. Evan paused, his senses on high alert. There was an energy here, an undeniable presence that seemed to pull him further into the heart of the ruins. Stepping carefully between the fallen columns, Evan felt a growing sense of anticipation, his pulse quickening with each passing moment. And then, at the center of the secluded grove, he saw her. The statue stood tall and alone, partially hidden behind twisting vines. The figure carved in stone was like nothing Evan had ever seen, graceful and hauntingly beautiful, with an otherworldly elegance that captivated him instantly. She appeared to be mid-motion, her arms extended, her face tilted slightly upward with closed eyes, as if she were frozen in the act of looking toward the sky. Long, stone-carved hair flowed over her shoulders and down her back, and her expression was serene, most peaceful. But with an unmistakable hint of sorrow, Evan took a few tentative steps closer, his gaze fixed on the stunning figure, his breath hitching in his throat. The statue's skin was carved in intricate detail, the texture smooth and almost lifelike despite the coarse stone. But it wasn't just the craftsmanship that held him in place. It was something deeper, something almost magnetic about her presence. She was beautiful in a way that stirred a strange emotion within him, something between awe and sadness. Drawn to the pedestal at the statue's base, Evan knelt down, brushing away the accumulated dust and dirt. To his amazement, an inscription lay beneath, faintly glowing as if imbued with an otherworldly energy. The language was alien, but thanks to years of studying ancient dialects, Evan was able to decipher a few of the words. Veiled in stone, awaiting the brave, he read, the weight of the words settling upon him. Only the true of heart shall lift the curse, freeing the soul within. A curse, he thought, feeling a chill run down his spine. The locals' hushed warnings of a mysterious, veiled one now held a much greater significance. As he stood, Evan placed a tentative hand on the statue's arm. The stone cooled beneath his fingertips. To his surprise, a faint warmth pulsed through the surface, subtle but unmistakable, as if a heartbeat lingered somewhere deep within. The realization struck him hard. This wasn't just a statue. Whoever she was still alive, trapped in an eternal prison of stone. Evan backed away, his heart racing, and took in the sight before him with renewed awe. What kind of being had the power to imprison someone in this way? And why had they done it? He felt an overwhelming urge to free her, though he didn't know how. There was a pull, a connection he couldn't explain, as though her sorrow echoed within him, resonating with a depth he hadn't known existed. Determined to uncover the truth, Evan returned to the pedestal, studying the inscription more closely. He deciphered a few more phrases, the alignment of 3 moons, and the gift of resonance, and his mind raced with the implications. Recalling his studies of the planet's celestial cycles, he knew that the moons aligned once every century in a rare triad formation, casting a unique energy over the land. If the inscription was to be believed, this alignment was the key to breaking the curse, but only if he could uncover the gift of resonance that would allow him to free the trapped spirit. The next alignment was scheduled to occur that very night. Evan's heart pounded with a mix of trepidation and determination. He had mere hours to solve this ancient puzzle. Scanning the grove, Evan's gaze fell upon a small crystal fragment, lying in the dirt near the statue's feet. The shard seemed to hum faintly, pulsing with an energy that resonated with the stone beneath his hands. Carefully he picked it up, feeling the vibration grow stronger in his grip. Could this be the gift of resonance the inscription had foretold? With no time to lose, Evan hurried back to his camp, gathering the few tools he'd need for the ritual. As night fell, he returned to the grove, the 3 moons already beginning to rise, their silvery glow casting an ethereal light over the ruins. The entire area seemed to come alive, bathed in a mystical aura as the celestial bodies took their positions in the night sky. Approaching the statue with a mix of excitement and trepidation, Evan held the crystal aloft, feeling it vibrate more intensely, resonating with the building energy around him. Slowly, he placed the shard at the statue's feet and stepped back, watching as it began to glow brighter, casting a soft radiance across her elegant form. As he stood there, the ground beneath him seemed to hum, and Evan felt a strange power radiating from the crystal. The air grew thick with anticipation, and his breath caught as he noticed thin cracks beginning to spread along the statue's arms and face. The stone was shattering piece by piece, revealing soft blue skin beneath. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the grove, causing the vines to sway and the air to grow warm. The statue continued to crack, shedding its stony exterior like an outer shell, and Evan found himself mesmerized, unable to look away as the woman within the stone came to life before his eyes. Her fingers twitched, her head tilted slightly, and then, with a final burst of light, the stone casing broke away, crumbling to the ground. Standing before him was a woman of stunning, ethereal beauty. Her skin was a soft shade of blue, and her eyes glowed silver in the moonlight, reflecting the alignment of the 3 moons above. She took a deep, shuddering breath, her chest rising and falling as life returned to her form. Evan watched, transfixed, as she looked at him, her gaze filled with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. Her lips parted slightly, and in a voice that carried a gentle, musical quality, she spoke her first words in ages. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft yet filled with emotion. "You have freed me." Evan's heart raced as he took in the sight of her, her presence radiating warmth and life. I couldn't leave you here," he managed, his voice trembling. "Who are you?" She smiled, a gentle yet haunting expression that spoke of both sorrow and hope. "My name is Lyra. I am the last of my kind, or at least I was." A heavy silence settled between them, both absorbing the enormity of what had just transpired. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze never leaving his, and placed a delicate hand on his shoulder. A spark passed between them, something indescribable yet undeniable, a connection that neither could ignore. Lyra's eyes softened as she took in the man who had freed her. "You have a pure heart, one capable of seeing beyond form. I am bound to you now, Evan." His name on her lips felt like a promise, and in that moment Evan felt the weight of their bond. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain. His life had been changed forever by the alien siren. He'd freed from stone. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting warm hues across the alien landscape, Evan sat beside Lyra, still processing the events of the previous night. Her presence felt surreal, her soft blue skin shimmering in the morning light, her eyes silver pools of mystery. Every detail about her captivated him, but it was her warmth and resilience that stirred something deep within his heart. They sat in silence for a moment, and then Lyra's gaze drifted to the grove around them. "This world," she murmured, her voice a mix of awe and sorrow. "It has changed so much." Closing her eyes, as if listening to the land itself, she sighed. "I can feel the echoes of my people, the ones who walked here before me." Evan turned to her, curiosity alight in his eyes. "You said you're the last of your kind. What happened?" Lyra's gaze grew distant and she began to speak, her voice carrying a haunting quality. "My people, the Tyrannel, were once a thriving civilization. We were a peaceful race, deeply connected to this world and its energies." She paused, a shadow passing over her features. "But ages ago, a hostile species came to our planet, drawn by the power we'd harnessed. They sought to conquer us, to strip us of our resources and take what they believed was rightfully theirs." Evan leaned in, listening intently as Lyra continued. "We resisted as best we could, but we were not a warlike people. When it became clear that we could not survive the onslaught, our leaders invoked an ancient spell, one that could hide our spirits from those who wished us harm. They turned us to stone, hoping that we would one day be revived by someone with a pure heart. She looked at Evan, a hint of gratitude softening her expression. But the curse was stronger than they anticipated. The years passed, and the Tyrannal remained trapped, hidden in stone until one by one they faded, until I was the only one left. A heavy silence fell between them, and Evan felt a pang of sorrow at her story, the weight of centuries weighing heavily on her shoulders. "So you were waiting for someone to free you," he murmured. Lyra nodded, her gaze never leaving his. "The inscription you read, the words of the spell could only be broken by someone who truly believed in what lies beyond appearances. You were able to see the soul beneath the stone, and that is why you were able to free me." A quiet sense of awe washed over Evan as he absorbed the gravity of what he'd done. "I didn't realize it was something like that," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just felt that I had to help you." Lyra's lips curved into a soft smile, and she reached out, placing her hand gently on his. "For that I am eternally grateful, Evan." The warmth of her touch sent a shiver through him, and he felt the undeniable spark of a connection forming between them, something that felt deeper than words. They spent the rest of the morning exploring the grove and the surrounding ruins, Lyra sharing stories of her people's rituals and customs, guiding Evan through the remnants of her civilization. She pointed out places where gatherings had once taken place, where the Tyrannal had communed with the planet's energies, and where families had lived in harmony with the land. Their time together was filled with both laughter and solemn moments, and Evan found himself enthralled by her wisdom, her stories giving him a glimpse into a world that had once been vibrant and full of life. In turn, Evan shared tales of his own explorations across the galaxy, of the planets and species he had encountered, all while Lyra listened with rapt fascination. As the day drew to a close, the two of them found themselves back at the grove, seated beside the broken remnants of the statue that had once imprisoned her. Lyra's eyes reflected the colors of the setting suns, and Evan felt a tug at his heart as he watched her. "Thank you, Evan," she said softly, her gaze warm and appreciative. "Not just for freeing me, but for sharing this time with me. It has been centuries since I felt truly alive." Evan's heart pounded at her words, and he realized just how much he had come to care for her in such a short time. "I don't want this to end, Lyra," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've changed my life in ways I can't even explain." Lyra's expression softened, and she reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. "There is a way for us to stay connected," she said, her voice steady but filled with a quiet intensity, "to be bound together as my people once were." Evan's breath caught, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" Lyra explained, her gaze unwavering. "The Tyrannal had a ritual, one we only performed with those we shared a deep bond with. It's called the Eternal Bond. Through it, we become linked in spirit, bound to one another across time and space." She looked at him, her eyes shining with sincerity. "Evan, if you wish it, we can share the Eternal Bond. It will mean that wherever we go, our spirits will always be connected, but it is a choice only you can make." Evan's mind swirled with emotion, gratitude, wonder, and an overwhelming sense of affection for this mysterious woman. He knew that what he felt was more than just fascination. It was something deeper, something he'd never experienced before. Meeting her gaze, his voice steady, he spoke. "I want this, Lyra. I want to be bound to you." Lyra's eyes shone with a mixture of happiness and relief, and she took a deep breath. "Then let us begin." The ritual took place under the twin moons, casting a soft silvery glow across the grove. Lyra guided Evan through the steps, their movements synchronized, as if they had known each other for lifetimes. She placed a hand on his chest, over his heart, and he mirrored her, feeling the warmth of her touch. In a soft melodic chant, Lyra began to speak in her native language, invoking the ancient spirits of the Tyrannal. Her voice was filled with both strength and vulnerability, a song that seemed to resonate with the very core of Evan's being. He closed his eyes, feeling a rush of energy flowing between them, binding them in a way he couldn't quite explain. Images flooded his mind, memories, emotions, and flashes of Lyra's life. He saw her as a child, running through the fields of her home, laughing with friends. He felt the weight of her loss, the centuries of solitude, and her longing for connection. Through it all, he felt her spirit, strong and resilient, her heart filled with a boundless capacity for love and hope. When the ritual ended, they opened their eyes, and Evan felt a warmth radiating from within, a glow that pulsed in harmony with his heartbeat. He looked at Lyra, and he could feel her presence within him, as though they were two parts of a single whole. They shared a quiet moment of understanding, their bond unbreakable, their spirits forever entwined. "I can feel you," Evan whispered, his voice filled with awe. "You're a part of me now." Lyra's smile was tender as she touched his cheek. "And you are a part of me, Evan. Wherever we go, we will always be connected." They sat together under the moonlit sky, their bond a silent promise of love, resilience, and an eternal companionship that neither time nor distance could sever. The dawn after the ritual was quiet, peaceful. Evan awoke with a new sense of warmth radiating from his chest, a comforting presence that he knew was Lyra's spirit, now forever connected to his own. He glanced over to see Lyra already awake, seated at the edge of the grove, watching the twin suns slowly rise over the alien horizon. Her expression was one of serene contentment, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the early light. Evan joined her and she turned, offering him a soft smile. "You're up early," she murmured, her voice carrying a tenderness that made his heart flutter. He settled down beside her, their shoulders touching, his heart steady with the knowledge of their bond. "After everything we've shared," he replied, "sleep almost feels like a waste." He paused, gazing out at the vast landscape. "It's strange I can feel you with me, even when we're not speaking. It's like you're here in my heart." Lyra's gaze softened, and she reached out to take his hand, threading her fingers through his. "That's the bond of the Tyrant, she said, her voice filled with quiet intensity. "I never thought I'd have the chance to share it with anyone, let alone with someone from another world.